What's going on, everyone? You may have noticed this isn't the normal type of video I do on this channel. However, I am trying to branch out and cover some other things that I'm interested in, not just Star Trek, not just the Orville. And I wanted to touch on Stargirl because as of right now, this coupled with Superman and Lois is some of the better superhero television that's going on right now. And I don't mean streaming, I don't mean movies. This is actually, by and large, a televised product. It's being shown on the CW, and therein lies part of the reason I think people are not watching it and people are not as aware of it, because A, the CW shows have gotten a huge stigma, especially in the last 5 or so years, and B, there's not really that much promotion for them. If you're not already a fan of the CW, if you're not already watching the CW, how are you really going to come across the fact that the show exists? They're not marketing it, as far as other television channels. I haven't seen much online outside of fan circles that are already sort of into this sort of thing. So I don't really see it as a viable thing that's growing beyond its core fan base to begin with. And that's a shame because, like I said, that and Superman and Lois are really kind of upping the game for superhero television programs. The effects, the character work, the storylines, the themes are just hitting it out of the park compared to, and I say this with all due respect, to shows that have gone on quite a while, like The Flash or something else. That show did have some fantastic stuff early on. It kind of faltered towards the middle section, and since it's going into his last season, I still would like to think that it's going to go out with a bang, but that remains to be seen. But we're here today to talk about Stargirl because its third season has just premiered. It's got this great mix of sort of nostalgic, zany, back in timeness, but it's also taking place in a contemporary society. It feels very, I don't know, maybe Silver Agey, not really Golden Age, but it's just got this weird kind of dichotomy between current day, but it doesn't really feel like it exists in our time period. It's got a lot of Justice Society of America stuff going on, which was very of its time, and I really like that stuff. So season 1 was fantastic. Season 2 kind of flipped the script and did a whole horror thing going on, and they took that a lot further than I expected them to do on a television program. The Eclipso character in season 2, I think, was done very well. In season 3, we're coming into things, pretty hot. We've got a murder mystery, it seems like they're doing. The opening scene of the opening episode actually was very different from what we've seen from this show before. We've got all of our principal characters coming back, obviously the younger characters. We've got Joel McHale joining the cast at least partially. I don't know what his status is as far as being in every episode, and I think that adds to this, because this season 3 is, for all intents and purposes, playing out, in my estimation, like a mystery, like a Clue-type murder mystery. So in this first episode, it's entitled The Murder. This season overall is called Frenemies, and this is only taking place maybe a year since season 1. So season 1 happened, then season 2 happened immediately after during the summer, and then they kind of tied that up, went on a little vacation, and now we're picking up season 3. So this is all a pretty tight time frame. We're not jumping around 5 years in the future or anything. And it picks up with the gambler coming back to town. He's trying to find his daughter, and all of our characters are kind of getting reacquainted to things. Obviously, Starman now appears to be back alive after he died in, this whole crux of the beginning of the series was the original Justice Society of America was pretty much all either killed or taken out in some manner, and that was the end of that. Jump cut to the beginning of Stargirl, and she gets the staff and starts discovering the powers. So that's where things started off, and we've slowly been regaining some of those characters from the original Justice Society of America. Obviously, we saw in flashback Jay Garrick. We don't know where he is currently, but we do suppose he is alive. We have seen a couple of other characters come back, like we've got the Genie, he's come back, the Thunderbolt, I should say. Who else is there? We've got the Shade, who was actually on the enemy team, he came back. Is he a good guy? So all of these players are kind of being looked at like, all of these people could be leading to the murder throughout the episode, and there's going to be spoilers if you haven't figured that out. We see the gambler. He's come back to town. He's trying to change his ways. He's looking for his long-lost daughter, who he didn't even realize he had. And right at the end of the episode, he gets killed. Or at least we're led to believe he's killed. I guess that could also be a red herring. That's it. That's the murder that this episode is titled for. And that leads us into the series proper, which is probably going to be a back and forth trying to figure out who this murderer is. We've also got this situation going on of how did Sylvester come back to life? That's the original Starman played by Joel McHale. I have a few thoughts here. He claims that he doesn't know. He's been dead for about 10 years at the time that he reawakened in his grave. He thinks what brought him back to life is the cosmic staff, the staff that gives Starman and or Stargirl their powers. But I don't know if that really tracks. And whether or not it does track doesn't necessarily mean that he's still in the right headspace. He's acting a bit weird. Even in the flashback scenes, he was never the most conscientious person. He was never the most selfless person. He always seemed to be a little bit of a dick. So, I don't know. Is this resurrection playing up his old traits? Is it even him? Is it a shapeshifter? Is somebody else in charge of resurrecting him? I personally, when I knew he was coming back going into the season, thought that he had been resurrected for a reason. I thought that was potentially bring him back, have him help teach Courtney to become a better, stronger, fantastic version of Stargirl. But then at the end of the season, his time is going to run out for whatever reason. He was only brought back for a limited time. Maybe he realizes, and everyone comes to realize, he was not the best choice to be Starman to begin with. He realizes his faults. Now the Earth, the world, whatever is safe in the hands of Stargirl, and he basically crumbles back into death, whatever you want to say. Or perhaps he was resurrected through some sort of nefarious means. An enemy has brought him back to life, and they're using him as some sort of disguise. Maybe he doesn't even know that he's been brought back to life by a bad guy, but they have some sort of inlaid control over him that they can flip a switch he doesn't know about. Maybe it's not even him. Some other creature is inhabiting his body. There's all sorts of sci-fi comic booky ways that we could have to explain his coming back. And it does seem like a very opportune moment for him to return. And I can't believe that that's just a coincidence that he happened to show up right now after all of these things have occurred. Hey, maybe it has something to do with Eclipso. Maybe it has something to do with some of the other characters that have appeared in the old seasons. Maybe, and I'm wondering if this has something to do with it, it has to do with the resurrection that was mentioned of Solomon Grundy. The Shade passed on all this information to Our Man, basically saying you need to bury Grundy in a specific place for him to kind of heal and come back to life. Now, obviously, in the comic books and other media, that is how Solomon Grundy is brought back to life. But it just seemed a bit odd that they would reference that in the same episode that we learn Starman was also buried in the ground and resurrected under specific circumstances. Maybe that's the reason Solomon Grundy isn't coming back to life, because whatever this life-bringing resurrection energy that exists in the earth was given to Sylvester, aka Starman, and that brought him back to life, but there's only so much of that in the earth to inhabit somebody, and that's why Grundy isn't coming back. Maybe they're linked. I don't know. There's all sorts of things going on here, and I think the main question is supposed to be figuring out this murderer, but to me, the more interesting mystery and the more interesting question is to figure out how and why Starman is back, and I'm sure that's linked. The show has always done a great job of, throwing twists and turns at you, so I hope that we don't get some sort of revelation too soon, but I do want to see this story move forward and us gain information each episode. Because what I really hate is mystery box type shows where they lay out a mystery in the first episode, the first 2 episodes, and then the whole rest of the season is basically filler, crap, 5 minutes left. Here's the resolution. There you go. You need to earn something each episode. You need to learn something, lose something, change your way of thinking, gain a character, change your opinion on a character each and every episode. You've got to move things forward and play the game within the 10 episodes, 8 episodes, 13 episodes, whatever you have to get that story and that point across. Otherwise, it's not fun, it's not earned, and you don't have any interest in following along. You're just, minding the store. You're biding your time until they dump everything on the end, and then it's never satisfactory. You always feel like you missed something. You always feel like, what's the point of this? Why did I even watch this? So if they can do their job right and play this long game and leave clues and leave red herrings throughout the season, I think this murder mystery season of Stargirl, season 3, Frenemies as it's subtitled, is going to be pretty damn good. And it's coming off a couple seasons of completely different types of storytelling. And if they keep switching up the game each season to kind of throw a different type of story at us, then I think this show does have the potential to last the long term. And that's one of my favorite things about watching these types of shows. Speculating, theorizing, coming up with ideas, trying to see if there's anything left. You know, Easter eggs are fun. Easter eggs are fine, but if they don't lead to anything, if they don't connect to anything, then they're just kind of there for the sake of being there. And so far, this show is tended to throw a lot of things that come back into play or connect to other things. So I'm very excited to see what plays out. Obviously, this is a more rushed discussion than I normally do, and that's because I want to get the video out. It's already late. Episode 2 is going to be airing in a couple of days, and I very much want to keep talking about Stargirl. So let me know what you guys think. Do you like this show? Are you enjoying the first episode so far? Any theories or thoughts you have? Whatever you want, put those in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those YouTube things. But if you haven't checked out this show and somehow you're still watching this video, I urge you to please at least go back to season 1 and give it a fair shake. It's leagues ahead of a lot of superhero television shows from the last decade as far as television goes. I would hate for it to kind of fall along the wayside and have people kind of forget that it exists before it even goes off the air. That's been it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.